Alright, so today's video is about a topic that we're all somewhat familiar with, winning versus losing. And before I get started and I share all my thoughts with you, I want to show off my t-shirt. Fitnessmodels.com. If you're not familiar with it, I suggest you check out the website, but basically Fitnessmodels.com is a brand. It's not just a clothing line, but there's also supplements and there's a community online. If you become a member, you have access to the other members and their knowledge, and you can actually learn from each other. It's a really great opportunity just because if you're looking for sponsorships also as an amateur athlete, you know there's really no prize money in competing. You just get the experience, you get the trophy, you get some exposure. But through fitnessmodels.com, they've actually selected several NPC and Musclemania shows where they actually give out prize money to class champions, overall champions, and anyone who places well enough will actually get that recognition. So it's just a really good opportunity, especially if you're new to the industry. But going back to the main topic, winning versus losing. Well, for starters, what does it mean to be a winner? Okay, and I think that word means a lot of different things because, for one, we all have different standards by which we go by when we consider something to be a win or a loss. And not everyone is a competitor. You know, you've got people who are very dedicated to the lifestyle, but they spend the majority of their time in the gym just lifting, working, and eating right, you know? So depending on your perspective and what you do and how you pursue this lifestyle, you're gonna have a very different perspective, a very different outlook on it. For me, having been on both sides of the coin, you know, just working out for years without ever competing, and then when I started competing in 2009, the term winning kind of took on a different meaning. And I would say initially, you know, winning meant placing well. You know, if I'm going to do a contest, even now, you know, back then it meant even more to me, but even now it still means a lot. So if I'm going to do a contest, you know, I'm going to spend anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks dieting, and it really just depends on what I look like in the off season and how seriously I take things, because if you get really out of shape and gain a lot of body fat, it takes longer to diet all that off. There's no one secret fat burner or pill out there to make you do it overnight and quickly. You know, there's things that may help expedite the process, but ultimately you have to be on a calorie deficit and all that stuff. But that's a whole nother topic. But the point is, if you spend all that time dieting and getting ready for a contest, you want to look your best. You want to compare well to the other athletes, and you want to get rewarded for all that hard work and all the time and effort that goes into it, because if you're doing it all on your own, especially, you don't have a coach, you don't have a meal prep service, you don't really have all of these other things to take a lot of that pressure away. You know what it's like to get up every day and just have everything on point, prepped and ready to go. You know, you've got the Tupperware, you set aside the time for the gym, you go to the gym even when it's nighttime, you just make it happen. So to put all that time into it for several weeks, for several months even, it's the type of thing where you don't want to walk away empty-handed. And getting that top spot, first place, and maybe even a possible overall trophy, winning the whole show, that means a lot. But I guess a lot of times there's only one winner. That's the only way it works. So if you get anything less than that, it may feel like some of that effort went to waste, when in reality, that's not the case. And so that's one of those things I've had to learn personally, because, I like getting first, and fortunately I've done 7 contests and I've actually gotten first more often than not. But on the occasions where I don't get first place, I don't beat myself over it, but I go back and I look at, what I brought to the stage, what I presented, and how I can make that better. And to me, that's a winning mentality, because if you can look at things and be honest with yourself and not just, chalk it up to politics and say that it was favoritism and the judges don't like you and this and that, that'll make you better in the long run, because you can actually address and assess those weaknesses and make them better. And even if you can't make them better, the reality is, if you can look your best and maintain that, if you've kind of hit a plateau and you can't really get past that, if you can maintain that and bring that every single contest, you are a winner. And let's face it, since none of us are getting any younger, the longer you compete, you kind of see that window of opportunity maybe getting a little smaller. But if you can actually look just as good as you did the previous year, and you compare well to yourself, years apart even, that kind of shows people that you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, and that you're actually focused and dedicated. And to me, that's what a winner is all about. Because if you don't place first, you're still competing against yourself. And it sounds cliche because so many people say it on Instagram and social media, but competing in bodybuilding or figure or physique or whatever you do, it really comes down to you versus you. Because you can't do anything about someone else's physique, someone else's genetics, someone else's training. All those mind games that we saw in Pumping Iron, hiding a t-shirt, being confident, being cocky, none of that stuff actually does anything to throw someone off. It's great for the cameras, but at the end of the day, it's what you do and not what you say and not how you act. So it's actually what you're gonna do on stage. Those actions that go into building your physique, those actions that go into maintaining your diet, those actions that go into practicing your posing, and those actions that go into maintaining a dominant stage presence. All of these are the things that actually matter and allow you to look like a winner. So even if you don't end up taking that first place trophy, well, you'll get whatever place you get, and you'll also end up looking your best, and no one can take that away from you. So you can't just make winning be all about that place, the first place or the overall, because realistically, there's only one person who gets there, and that's the happiest person of all. But at the end of the day, if you know you gave it your best, you gave it 100%, and you left nothing left unturned, then you should definitely feel like a champion. At least that's the way I look at it, and that's the way that I'm able to go from one contest to the next. And another thing is with competing and bodybuilding, it doesn't always have to be about the next competition. I know, speaking from my own experience, I don't do this for competition. I compete from time to time because it's something that I get a kick out of. It's a way for me to express myself and to show my originality and creativity. But ultimately, I'm just doing this for me. And it really is a lifestyle, and it's something that I enjoy. I don't really care if I always win. As long as I can look my best, then I just take it for what it is. And another thing is, when it comes to winning or losing, I've always felt like if you compete against someone and they look like the winner, and you can be honest with yourself and admit that they look better than you, then you should actually feel pretty good about that. Because even though you did lose, to lose to someone who's better than you is kind of a good thing, because when those pictures come out and people see the contest photos online, they're gonna say, well, you did your best, that guy looked better. And ultimately, you do want to compete against the best. Even as an amateur, you may not be competing for the Mr. Olympia and the big prize money, but you still want to be up there with people who not only make you look good, but also you make them look good, where it actually looks like it's competition. It actually looks like it was evenly matched. It actually looks like the judges had their work cut out for them. So to stand on stage with someone and to lose to someone better, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And look at it this way. Let's say someone you win, you compete against, and you don't win against them, but they go on to turn pro and they compete in the IFBB. Let's say they have a very illustrious career and they end up, winning title after title. At the end of the day, you get to say that as an amateur, you stood on stage with that person. And I think that's a pretty cool experience in and of itself. But winning versus losing, it doesn't have to be black and white and cut and dry. Like, if you're just putting it on a piece of paper and saying you won or you lost, that's one thing. But in the end, there's a lot of experiences that go into it, and you learn more about yourself. So I don't think any loss is really 100% of a loss, because you always walk away better for it. You always walk away a little stronger and a little more knowledgeable, and that's what's going to keep you going. Because at the end of the day, you're only on stage for a few minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes if you're lucky. Assuming, you win your class and you go to the overall pose down, and then you actually win the overall, so they take a few extra photos of you on stage with your trophy. But at the end of the day, once you have those bragging rights and you tell people that you competed, it really just comes down to the lifestyle and whether you're able to adhere to it and follow it. Because the way it makes you feel, that's the greatest reward of all. Competing, being healthy, taking care of yourself, these are the things that ultimately matter. Because trophies just sit on a shelf and they collect a lot of dust. And I have 1 or 2 trophies, which I'm very proud of, but ultimately, all I can do is look at them. So I guess, a long story short, just because you lose doesn't make you a loser, but at the end of the day, if you give it 100%, you always end up a winner. That's the way I look at it. So you guys, let me know what you think. Since this is a YouTube video, leave a comment for me or something. Like the video if you like it. If not, I guess don't hit dislike, but maybe tell me in the comments what I can do to make these videos better. This was just kind of off the top of my head, and it's not the most eloquent, and I apologize about that, but at the end of the day, this is how I genuinely feel. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.